In the harsh desert of New Mexico, 1887, a poor farmer's act of compassion would forever change the fate of an entire Apache tribe. When Thomas Miller discovered two mysterious giant sisters near death, he had no idea his simple kindness would lead to the most extraordinary decision a tribal chief had ever made. This is the true story of courage, sacrifice, and an unlikely bond that defied all expectations. Thomas Miller wiped the sweat from his weathered brow as he surveyed his failing corn crop. The relentless drought of 1887 had turned his once promising fields into a wasteland of withered stalks and cracked earth. At 43, Thomas had spent nearly 2 decades trying to make this patch of New Mexico desert bloom, but nature seemed determined to break him. His small wooden cabin, barely more than a shack, stood as a testament to his humble circumstances, a poor farmer scratching out an existence on the edge of Apache territory. As the sun began its descent toward the distant mountains, Thomas noticed something unusual near the dried creek bed that bordered his property. 2 massive figures lay motionless among the scrub brush and tumbleweeds. His first instinct was caution. This was Apache land, and tensions between settlers and the indigenous tribes ran high. Stories of raids and conflicts filled the newspapers from Santa Fe to Tucson. Drawing closer, Thomas realized these weren't ordinary travelers. The 2 women were enormous, each standing nearly 7 feet tall even in their collapsed state. Their Apache dress and intricate beadwork identified their heritage, but their size was unlike anything Thomas had ever witnessed. The elder sister, who appeared to be in her 30s, had long black hair braided with turquoise and silver ornaments. The younger, perhaps 25, bore similar features but with a gentler expression even in unconsciousness. Both women were severely dehydrated and weakened from what appeared to be days of travel without water or food. Their lips were cracked and bleeding, their skin burned by the merciless desert sun. Despite the potential danger of harboring Apache women on his property, Thomas felt his humanity override his fear. These were not warriors or raiders. They were 2 desperate souls in need of help. Without hesitation, Thomas lifted each woman, a feat that required all his strength given their unusual stature, and carried them to his modest cabin. He laid them on his only bed and began the careful process of bringing them back from the brink of death. Drop by drop, he administered water to their parched lips and slowly prepared a thin broth from his meager supplies. Throughout the night, Thomas maintained his vigil, monitoring their breathing and applying cool, damp cloths to their fevered brows. For 3 days, Thomas nursed the 2 Apache sisters back to health, sharing his dwindling food supplies and precious water reserves. As they regained consciousness, he discovered their names. Ayana, meaning eternal blossom, was the elder sister, while Itzel, Rainbow Lady, was the younger. Despite the language barrier, they communicated through gestures and the few Spanish words they shared in common. Thomas learned through their halting explanations that the sisters had been exiled from their tribe. Their extraordinary height, while revered in some Apache traditions as a sign of spiritual power, had become a source of controversy within their particular clan. Some tribal members viewed them as blessed, while others whispered they were cursed or dangerous omens. The internal conflict had grown so intense that they felt compelled to leave voluntarily to preserve tribal unity. The sisters had wandered the desert for nearly a week, seeking a new place to call home or perhaps accepting that death would be their fate. Their discovery by Thomas represented nothing short of a miracle in their eyes. Despite their imposing physical presence, both women possessed gentle spirits and profound gratitude for the farmer's kindness. As Ayana and Itzel regained their strength, they insisted on helping with Thomas's daily chores. Their incredible size proved advantageous for many tasks. They could easily reach high shelves in his barn, move heavy objects that would have required multiple people, and their long strides allowed them to cover ground quickly when tending to the scattered remains of his crops. More importantly, Their knowledge of desert survival proved invaluable. Itzel demonstrated how to locate hidden water sources by reading the subtle signs in the landscape, the direction certain plants leaned, the behavior of desert animals, and the nearly imperceptible changes in soil color. Ayanna shared traditional Apache farming techniques perfectly suited to the harsh climate, showing Thomas how to create windbreaks and retain soil moisture using methods passed down through generations. Word of the unusual arrangement began to spread among the scattered settler community. Neighbors whispered about the poor farmer who had taken in 2 Apache giants, some viewing it as dangerously naive, others as admirably Christian. Thomas ignored the gossip, focusing instead on the genuine friendship and mutual respect that had developed between him and the sisters. For the first time in years, his isolated homestead felt like a true home, filled with laughter and companionship. However, this peaceful interlude would soon be disrupted by the arrival of unexpected visitors who would change everything. On a scorching afternoon in late August, a cloud of dust on the horizon announced the approach of horsemen. Thomas felt his blood run cold as he recognized the unmistakable silhouettes of Apache warriors riding toward his homestead. Ayanna and Itzel emerged from the cabin, their expressions mixing hope with apprehension as they identified members of their former tribe. Leading the group was Chief Nulnish, a distinguished man in his 60s whose weathered face bore the wisdom and authority of decades of leadership. His presence commanded immediate respect, and even from a distance, Thomas could sense the gravity of this unexpected visit. The chief had come not for war or conflict, but to speak with the sisters who had vanished from tribal lands months ago. The reunion was emotionally charged. Chief Nulnish dismounted and approached Ayanna and Itzel with a mixture of relief and solemnity. Through an interpreter who accompanied the group, Thomas learned that the tribe had been searching for the sisters since their departure. Their absence had created an unexpected void in tribal life, and many members had come to realize the sisters' true value to their community. The chief explained that their exile had been the result of superstition and fear among a vocal minority of tribal members. However, in the months since their departure, the tribe had faced numerous challenges: failed hunts, conflicts with neighboring tribes, and difficulties in negotiations with U.S. government officials. Many had begun to interpret these hardships as signs that driving away the sisters had brought misfortune upon them all. More significantly, Chief Nulnish revealed that he had been having powerful dreams about the sisters and their role in the tribe's future. In Apache tradition, such visions carried immense spiritual weight, and the chief had come to believe that Ayanna and Itzel were not omens of bad luck, but rather protectors and symbols of strength that the tribe desperately needed. Thomas found himself in an impossible position. Over the weeks of caring for the sisters, he had grown genuinely fond of them and had come to depend on their help and companionship. His failing farm had begun showing signs of recovery thanks to their traditional farming knowledge and physical assistance. The thought of losing them filled him with unexpected sadness. However, he also recognized that this reunion represented something far more significant than his personal feelings. These women belonged to a community that was now ready to welcome them back, and their return might heal divisions within the tribe while restoring them to their rightful place among their people. The sisters themselves were torn between 2 worlds. They had found peace and acceptance with Thomas, but the pull of their cultural heritage and the possibility of redemption within their tribe created an emotional conflict that was written clearly across their faces. Chief Nulnish requested permission to camp near Thomas's property for several days while the sisters considered their future. This arrangement allowed for extended conversations that revealed the depth of change within the Apache community. The chief spoke passionately about his vision for the sisters' role in helping the tribe navigate the increasingly complex relationship with the expanding United States. The government had been pressuring Apache tribes to relocate to designated reservations, and many chiefs struggled with decisions that would determine their people's survival. Chief Nalnish believed that Ayana and Etzel, with their unique presence and the respect their size commanded, could serve as powerful symbols in negotiations. Their very appearance would demonstrate the strength and dignity of the Apache people to government. Officials who often viewed indigenous tribes as weak or primitive. During these discussions, Thomas observed the sisters wrestling with their decision. Ayana, as the elder, felt a strong sense of duty to her people and was increasingly drawn to the possibility of returning home with honor rather than shame. She spoke quietly with her sister in their native language, gesturing toward the desert where their tribe waited. Itzel, however, seemed more conflicted. She had formed a particularly strong bond with Thomas, appreciating his simple kindness and the peaceful life they had built together. The younger sister had always been more sensitive to conflict and feared that returning to the tribe might eventually lead to the same tensions that had driven them away initially. Thomas found himself studying the Apache warriors who accompanied the chief. Unlike the stereotypes he had heard in town, these men were dignified, respectful, and clearly devoted to their leader and community. They showed genuine affection for the sisters and expressed regret about the circumstances that had led to their exile. Several warriors shared stories of how they had missed the sisters' presence during hunts and ceremonies. The cultural exchange during these few days proved enlightening for everyone involved. Thomas shared his farming techniques and tools with the Apache visitors, while they taught him more about desert survival and traditional crafts. Language barriers gradually dissolved as gestures, demonstrations, and shared work created understanding that transcended words. As the fourth day approached, Chief Nalnish announced that he would need to make a decision about his tribe's next steps. Government officials were expecting him at a crucial meeting regarding reservation boundaries, and he could not delay much longer. The weight of leadership was evident in his bearing as he prepared for conversations that would shape his people as future for generations. Thomas realized that his comfortable routine with the sisters was about to end, but he also began to understand that their story was part of something much larger than his small homestead. On the final evening before Chief Nalnish's departure, the Apache leader made an announcement that stunned everyone present. Rather than asking the sisters to choose between their old life and their new one, he proposed an unprecedented solution that would honor both their service to Thomas and their importance to the tribe. The chief had been deeply impressed by Thomas's character and the genuine care he had shown for Ayana and Itzel. More importantly, he had observed how the sisters had flourished under the farmer's protection and friendship. Their health had improved dramatically, their spirits had healed from the wounds of exile, and they had found a sense of purpose that had been missing during their final months with the tribe. Chief Nalnish's decision was revolutionary. He formally invited Thomas to join the Apache community as an adopted member of the tribe. This was not merely a symbolic gesture, but a genuine offer of full membership, complete with responsibilities, rights, and a permanent place among the Apache people. The chief explained that Thomas's kindness toward the sisters demonstrated the kind of character the tribe needed as they faced an uncertain future. The proposal included practical arrangements that would benefit everyone involved. Thomas would be given land within Apache territory, where he could continue farming using both his techniques and traditional Apache methods. His agricultural knowledge, combined with the sisters' understanding of desert farming, could help improve food security for the entire community. In return, Thomas would receive the protection and support of the tribe during the challenging times ahead. For Ayana and Itzel, this solution meant they could return to their people while maintaining their friendship with the man who had saved their lives. They would serve as bridges between Thomas and the tribal community, helping him integrate while using their unique status to promote harmony and cooperation. The emotional impact of this offer was immediately apparent. Thomas had lived alone for so many years that the concept of belonging to a large supportive community seemed almost too good to be true. The sisters wept with joy at the possibility of keeping both their tribal heritage and their friendship with Thomas intact. However, the decision carried significant risks and challenges. Thomas would be leaving behind everything familiar to join a community facing potential displacement by the U.S. government. He would need to learn new customs, languages, and ways of life while contributing his skills to help the tribe survive during a period of historical upheaval. Chief Nalnish emphasized that this was not a decision to be made lightly. He gave Thomas until sunrise to consider the offer, understanding that accepting would mean abandoning his old life entirely and committing to the Apache people through whatever difficulties lay ahead. As the stars emerged in the desert sky, Thomas walked among his failing crops one final time, weighing the choice between his struggling independence and an uncertain but promising future with his new family.